Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Filipino American Ministry podcast. My name is Aaron. I'm with my co-host Henrik. If you like this podcast, make sure to rate it 5 stars. Henrik?
Yes, welcome everyone. Today we'll be talking about our young adult ministry. We'll be talking about how we started it and the lessons we learned from it, things that we did well. And I think this is relevant because there's not many Filipino American churches with young adult ministries, or if they do have them, they're still navigating it. It's new territory. So hopefully we can provide some insight or some experiential knowledge to help them as they navigate that.
Mm-hmm.
And for those Filipino churches that don't have any young adult ministry, but they have young adults, hopefully this can be an encouragement for them to start. So Aaron, Aaron is the one who started the young adult ministry at our church, the last one. And so I think there's some things we can learn from what happened there. So can you share about your story, like how you started it and what was your reasoning when you started it?
Yeah, of course. So the young adults ministry started when most of us were moving into college, and I just noticed, man, that like a lot of people were either leaving and not coming back, or they're not coming back because they can't find a place they could fit in. Like the next generation after us were really young, so they're like really young youth. And I think at that time, like we didn't even have a youth pastor. So really there's no ministries for the second generation at that time. So it was kind of like at that point where it was, if I was second gen, it would be really easy to leave. And so for me, in my mind, I didn't want that to happen. I didn't want my friends to leave. I didn't want, people my age to just leave, and because there's nothing for us there. So that's kind of like how it started.
Okay.
I had a mentor at that time, and I was just like, hey, can you help me? I want to start a Bible study, and so he helped me a little bit. So yeah, I just started there, and it was me and like 4 girls. I still remember it. First Bible study.
Yeah. I think I saw photos of it.
Yeah, you weren't even there yet, I don't think. I don't know if I invited you guys, but nobody came. None of the guys came, maybe.
I think I think you talked to me when you were starting it, but then I was leading my own group in College Park. In college, I think we were meeting at the same time, so I couldn't go for my campus ministry.
Oh, I see.
But then when my campus ministry ended, I started attending again, or I started attending your group.
Yeah, I think like it was this time where that Asian Exodus, or like young like
The silent exodus?
Yeah, the silent exodus was kind of popularized because it's not just in our church. Across the board on all like Asian American churches, you see young adults leaving the church.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also I think our church was small, so I think that if it's a small church, it makes it easier to leave.
Yeah,
when you're older.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think I set out to save the young adults or whatever. I just wanted like something that could sort of focus on and minister to people like me.
Mm-hmm.
That's all kind of I wanted. And I still remember, I really do remember like specific people who were leaving that I messaged them like, hey, why are you leaving? Like I was trying to convince them to stay, but they didn't. So
yeah,
maybe that's, I don't exactly remember, but maybe that's part of the drive of like, oh man, I really felt like people were leaving, at least like who were in my life, and I thought that was really sad.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a big youth group. I think.
Every time we had about like 40, or sometimes we go to 50 at one time.
Yeah, and
That's
it was
big for a Filipino American church.
Yeah, for a Filipino American church, it was pretty big. I remember. Yeah, every Saturday it was a ton of people.
Yeah.
Even people who don't attend our church were going there.
Yeah.
And it was it was kind of sad to see them all leave, or to see them leaving slowly. Okay, so can you talk about now that we talked about like the reasoning behind it? So let's talk about what does it look like? So, can you share like what did it look like when you started, and what did it look like when you ended?
Okay.
Or when you left? When you left?
Yeah, definitely.
And then I can pick up and talk about what it looked like when you left. And
okay. So again, like I said earlier, when it started, it was really just me and four other girls. And man, I still remember the first lesson. Do you remember? I don't know if I've ever told you, but my first lesson, Bible study, I thought it was really smart of me to start a Bible study in the book of Romans. And I wasn't experienced at all. I wasn't like an experienced Bible teacher or whatever. So it's like, oh yeah, let's do a Romans. So that first Bible study, I could still remember, man, like I'm talking and like everybody's yawning. It's like, come on, get it over with.
Yeah.
So I definitely did not even finish that first lesson because it was like so hard.
Oh, what? You didn't finish?
I mean, I didn't really like. I mean, we
didn't go through
we had a Bible study, yeah, but I don't think I actually like can remember my train of thought. Like I lost it so many times. It was that bad. But it was also like a hard book, for like. I feel like I was such a beginner that it was such a difficult book to start with, the Book of Romans.
Yeah.
So thankfully, my mentor was there. He's like, no. Start with the Book of John. When you're done with the Book of John, do it again. So that was kind of helpful. John is also like pretty difficult, I think, to cover like thoroughly, but Romans was much harder, I think. So we eventually like skipped Romans. But, that's kind of like the beginning part is really a lot of, like me not knowing what I was doing. It's not like I had like a really good plan. I mean, I'm thankful I had a mentor who was kind of helping me out at that point. I remember, preparing for Bible study, and, I would always call him. I would call him like at the day of Bible study. I was like, okay, here's what I got, and then I'd tell him my main points or something like that, and just share with him, and then like, is this okay? Because I really like didn't know what I was doing, and which caused me to pray a lot, and that praying a lot is, I think, the biggest factor in helping the group grow a little bit. So anyways, fast forward to like a couple years later, by the time I was leaving, going to seminary, there's about like four different groups meeting in 4 different cities in Maryland when I left, I think, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think I was leading one, and Kuya John was leading one, and you were leading one, and then Ate Esther was leading the other one.
Yeah, so you, John, and Esther, and
you. You had your own. You were meeting in Rockville, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a short story.
I think I want you also to talk about like how you made it grow, or like how did you start from those 4 girls to how did it expand, I guess?
Yeah. Okay. So maybe I can just talk a little bit about some of the highlights that I remember. I'm pretty sure there's a lot that I don't remember. Like, I wish I kept a journal. That's one of the things I wish I did. Like, I wish I kept a journal of what I did during those years, because just looking back, and I'm like, oh man, what did I do? Like, how did it grow? But
Mm-hmm.
from what I remember, again, number one is prayer. I remember like preparing and having this feeling of, man, I'm not ready. There's so much I need to know. Like, I'm not prepared. So it drove me to study a lot like crazy. And I would listen to like sermons and podcasts of sermons at my work all day, just to get ready. Like, if we had a topic, I would just kind of like listen to everything I can get my hands on, like every sermon that's been done on that topic, every background history, whatever. Because I didn't have those the skills to do those.
Yeah.
I guess the skill I had was like I was well, I had a job that allowed me to listen in on my if I had an earphone on or a headphone on, and
Mm-hmm.
they were okay with it. So that kind of helped, because I was just like listening all day
Yeah, I remember
to
that.
like
I remember that.
preachers. But yeah, this really drove me to pray a lot. Like, just remember so many days where I'm like, oh man, today's the Bible study day, Bible study later. Now it would just be like, you know what? It's enough of me like listening, studying. I gotta go pray. Like, I would pray for like half an hour or 20 minutes, just like, oh Lord, help me. I don't know. Like, I need help on this one. Like, if without your help, it's not gonna go anywhere, or something like that. I remember my prayer has always been, and up till now, my prayer is always like, use me mightily. With the context of me thinking like, I'm so weak. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So, but use me mightily, like guide me, because I
Yeah.
could mess this up really bad. And then definitely there was some fear of me like teaching the wrong thing.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to like teach the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
That, and also, I don't think my leadership skills were developed as much, I guess. Like, even now, I'm still working on it, but it's a skill that you develop also. I don't know if you remember when I first joined the youth group. Yeah, I was pretty shy, and it took a while for that to develop also.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first thing, is prayer. I did a lot of that. The other thing helped a little bit is we used some curriculum that was more participative in a sense, because so for a while I did the Bible study thing, I think, and that worked. I think that worked really well too. So that helped me develop my skills. And then we used some curriculum that was more participative. I guess like we switched it up too. But I think using that curriculum kind of taught me to make it more participative in a sense.
Are you talking about the gospel-centered
Yeah, that one.
life? Okay.
Yeah, so that was a good topic. Also, it was very, it really hit us, I think, really relevant to our group. But at the same time, it's kind of taught me like some, some other Bible study Bible study methods that could be useful.
Mm-hmm.
And then food. So one of the things that I was sort of skilled at even from the beginning is like organization. So that kind of helped, is to figure out how we could run efficiently. So even from the beginning, I was like already looking for people who could help me. So it wasn't just me, because I realized like I'm spending all this time preparing for the lesson and studying, and like I'm not good at thinking of what food to bring or whatever. that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Or like, figuring out all the other things. Like I was just mainly focused on the primary thing of teaching and studying. So even from the beginning, I already tried to figure out, okay, like, we got ride problems. Some of the young adults don't have cars or they don't drive. So we got to figure out who's driving. They're coming from different cities. So we tried to figure that out. And then, okay, we got to have food. We're still Filipinos, even though we're second gen. So we like tried to assign people right from the get-go. Like, okay, tried to recruit people. Actually, I still have one of the letters that we sent out to somebody who I wanted to be like part of the team. Tried some managing our. I think at that time, I don't remember what we called it, but it was the person who was in charge of figuring out our outdoor, not just outdoor, but mainly outdoor activities for the purpose of drawing us closer together. Having activities that we could do together, like hiking, or like
Okay.
like once a month, at least once a month. So
like fellowship activities.
Yeah, fellowship, but not like fellowship, like, oh, what do you do before the Bible study? But like, it's not not Bible study at all. It's just like activities that we could do. So the guys, I figured out that the guys like basketball, so we did that a lot, like every week. I don't remember. I think you remember that, right? We played basketball a lot, especially when the weather was good. But the girls weren't there. So I had to figure out, and I had to figure out. I assigned somebody to like figure out something that we could do together. So one of them is like hiking, and then like if there's like a Valentine's event, she would also kind of figure that out. Those kind of things.
Yeah, we also did water boat, white water rafting or something.
Yeah.
I forgot what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and then we also went to DC when cherry blossoms were there, and we went after church.
I forgot that. Yeah.
Yeah, we did a lot of stuff. Like there were a lot of times we just went to someone's house, like Tita Hermie's house, or when we would just hang out.
Yeah.
Sometimes we would go to like I think we went to, like, when it was someone's birthday, we would go to Rockville and go to one of the, like, I remember at Tina's birthday, we went to Taratai in Rockville.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that, like, to draw from that, I think one of the things that was important for us was fellowship outside of Bible study, like not just
that's right
doing Bible study, but also fellowship.
Yeah, but even that, it had to be like organized in a way that it's kind of useful, because I think I remember at the time we were having like a lot of new people. We had new friends. What's her name again? The ones that worked at the hotels.
Joyce.
Yeah, Joyce and her friends. So we had to figure out like, okay, how do we pick them up? How do we do activities that would connect us? Oh yeah, so that's the other thing too, right? Like we always had this problem of like, well, how do you make the the FOBs and the second gen Filipinos to hang out together? Like, what do you do so that they hang out together? Because if we just like go to a place, if we just sit at a restaurant, it's like sometimes they don't talk to you when you're just starting out. It's like they say hi, and then after 5 minutes, like they don't know what else to say.
Yeah. That was one of the things I wanted to talk about. How did you connect the first and second generation? So I think for the listeners, I think it was under Aaron's leadership that I saw first gen and second gen people in the same age group fellowshipping. I think that's the only place I've seen it. I mean, I haven't gone to many Filipino American churches, but in our history, that was the only time I've ever seen it where, like, even me, I'm a second gen, but I made close relationships with first generation Filipino Americans who were around the same age. So can you talk about that too? How did you get them to hang out, and what were the key decisions you made to foster that?
I think doing those activities that like the hiking, those kind of things, or the water rafting,
Yeah.
activities like those that help them to interact.
Hmm.
That was one, and then just actually talking about it, opening it up, like, oh, we need to do this. How do we, talking about it with the group. What was good was that, like, in the leadership structure of the young adults, was we had first gen and second gen.
Yeah. I was gonna say that.
So
We had leaders who were, mix, and then
yes,
you were
that
the main leader, and you were 1.5. So I think what I observed was when we were together, when we would hang out, like you could make jokes with the first gen, but then you could also make jokes with us. So you were kind of like the bridge.
the bridge, yeah. Or it's more like the second gen joked about me, but
No, because I remember there was times when like Jerome and Atester and you and Joyce, you guys would make your own jokes, and then like me and Kuya John wouldn't understand, I think, but then you would like tell us, or you would explain to us, and then we would all laugh together because you were our connect. I guess because we're close with you, and then you're also developing a close bond with them. So. Like for example, I think one thing I would like to highlight was when we went to DC. That was my first time going to DC with first gen Filipino Americans. It was me, you, and Nathan, and then we went with Ate Mylene and Ate Esther. I think that was the time that I was able to talk with Ate Mylene in more depth. That was the way that I could get to know the first gen Filipino Americans closer.
yeah. So I think with the connecting those two different generations, it's just creating scenarios where you would have to interact. It's kind of weird going to DC, riding the train, and at least at that point, you weren't like staring. We weren't staring down on our screens. It's just like we gotta talk.
Yeah, because I was thinking about this. I was like, like years later, I was thinking if Aaron wasn't here, I would feel kind of awkward going to DC with them. But since Aaron was there, I think your presence, and also I think at Esther, to an extent also, because she's also very friendly.
Yeah.
So I think, I guess having leaders who are like 1.5, they can help bridge, or they can help create those fellowship opportunities. Because I think that was a spontaneous event. So I think you guys, when you guys decided to go to DC, like I was willing to go because I knew you and Ate Esther, and then I think Ate Mylene went because she ate Ate Esther. So
Yeah.
when we have that commonality, when you have someone who we're common friends with, and then we go to DC, then I'm able to interact with Ate Mylene in a different context and get to know her better. So I think that's where 1.5 can act as a bridge or a catalyst or a key to that bridge.
Yeah, but I also would like to say that even if you're not 1.5, I think just the fact that we wanted it, we saw the problem and we wanted to do something about it.
Yeah, the awareness.
The awareness, and we were talking about it, and we're trying to figure out how do we do this? How do we connect? The different groups.
Yeah. So that's good. I think I would also like to add, like, it doesn't have to be a 1.5 gen, like you said, because I've seen relationships between us and other first gen. Like when you left, there was another person who came to our church who was first gen, and I think what united us was, of course, it's the Bible. So I think that's also key. Like when first generation Filipino Americans and second generation Filipino Americans are firm in their faith, or they really take their faith seriously, then they can bond over that. So I think that was. So it doesn't have to be 1.5 gen, but what I've seen, I just wanted to point out another instance in our church's history where we were able to bond because we like listened to the same preachers. We also had the same convictions, and then when we shared those convictions and shared our viewpoints, then that's how we were able to bond also.
Yeah. Well, also, like, I think if you have a young adults ministry, if part of your vision is connecting the two groups, then it will in some way it would happen.
Okay. So I think that's a good start to like how first generation and second generation Filipino Americans of the same age can bond. I also want to talk about what did we do in the young adult ministry to bridge between the older generation and the younger generation. So the first generation Filipino Americans who are like boomers, how did we bridge between them and the first gens who are millennials? How did that, or the second gen who are millennials? How did we do that?
Yeah. I think part of it, again, behind all of what I'm saying is prayer, right? There was a lot of prayer happening, but some of the specific things that happened that helped us, I think, it depends on your ministry, but again, just looking into ways where, we had this disconnect between the second gen, the young adults, and then the older generation. Like, how do we bridge it? How do we connect them? And so just looking at this, just thinking like, okay, what can we do? I think part of it is we did some talking with the older with the adults, the older people, and I remember Pastor and I would connect, and I would just share with him like what's going on with the young adults, that kind of thing.
Did you initiate that, or did he?
I don't remember, but I know that there was a conversation.
Okay,
right?
But it was regular, right? Regular meetings.
Whenever we see each other, yeah, and then they did include me in their meetings.
Okay.
At least towards the end, like, when it was already growing, it's like, so it was growing, and then you can see that there's this disconnect, and so we're trying to figure out how to connect it. So I was kind of part of the leadership team. So I would join their meetings. So I'd do a little bit of update. At the other thing that I remember that we tried to implement is, so first we were trying to figure out how we can get mentors. Like, how can we be mentored? And that didn't really work out. So, okay, there's got to be another thing we could do. And so it came actually through a problem that we had. The problem we had was that, like, we didn't have money to buy food. So we had to figure out, okay, how can we feed ourselves? We don't have money and we're meeting regularly, So, we look at the Filipino church and we're like, okay, you know what? They like, Filipinos like to cook food. They like to host. So we're like, okay, what if we ask the adults to host our Bible studies? Because we didn't always have a place for Bible studies, right?
Yeah.
They host our Bible studies and they cook for us. So
we wouldn't ask them though, right? We wouldn't ask them to cook for us.
No, just to host. But I think that's kind of like part of it. Yeah, part of it is like there's gonna be food. I think there was conversation of food too. It wasn't just like let's just be quiet and then hopefully they'll cook food for us. I think part of that is like the conversation. Okay, what do you guys need? How can I serve you guys? So
wait, who would ask that? The adult would ask you that?
Yeah, the adults would ask that. So on the one hand, it's really us trying to like we ask for help, right? Okay, mentorship's not gonna work. Okay, they don't have time for it. That's okay, but we do or maybe they feel like they're not prepared for it or they're not skilled for mentorship. But we do need somebody to host us. So hosting, that's very natural for Filipinos, at least for a lot of Filipinos. So like, okay, yeah, we'll host you. So we just kind of scheduled it, and that. I remember that move really bonded us with some of, at least some of the adults, because when we do the Bible studies, they're there, they're listening, they're taking part of it.
Yeah.
And there's this regularity of interaction.
Yeah.
So again, just thinking of ways that both groups could interact.
Yeah. I think when we had those Bible studies at their houses, like when we would be getting food, during those times was when I would talk to Tito Joel or Tita Bernadette or Tita Hermie, like during the food time, like
That's
when we were eating.
Yeah. We asked them
Then
questions.
it's not. Yeah, we would ask them questions, but also they would ask us questions.
Mhm.
So I think that was really key. Like having our Bible study, and also like we also don't have our own apartments or like our own houses. We
That's
all
right.
lived with our parents, so we
Yeah.
don't really have a place to stay, or we don't really have a place to host, other
right.
than like a public place, which
Yeah,
you
at that
did.
time.
Yeah, I mean, you did meet in Starbucks, and I also
we
met in
did.
Starbucks at one point. But I think having those meetings with the adults in their houses was really key for helping in bridging the gap between the first. Yeah, and also I want to say too is that there was no animosity between the generations,
No.
right? Like
No.
I think from our side, we didn't think of the adults as like an us versus them mentality. I think when that creeped in, or like when we started having those kinds of us versus them mentality, that kind of made the gap bigger and bigger, and then eventually we all left. So I think that that mindset of not looking at them as an us versus them mentality was also key for bridging that gap.
Well, I think if you just I realized this in the early church, they met in homes, and part of that is that having that meal, that fellowship. That's kind of like what we were doing, going into their homes. It's just creating these opportunities of relationships to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also I also wanted to add, I think serving together. So I've seen the first generation ask the second generation for help, like in Awana or in like the youth Sunday school programs. I think that also helps with when they're serving together in a ministry. That helps with the relationship as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. How about like what do we do to bridge the gap to Gen Z? Because we were millennials, right, for the most part. And so how did we bridge the gap with Gen Z?
Younger ones? I haven't thought about that. I got you, probably. That's how we reach out to the Gen Z.
Yeah, so for the listeners, when Aaron started the young adult ministry, I was also in the youth ministry. I was the leader in the youth ministry.
Yeah, that's right.
So my job in the young adult ministry was to be a liaison for the youth ministry and the young adult ministry and seek ways to connect the two. So what I did was during the summertime, I advocated for letting the high school kids join our young adult Bible studies. So I think that helped, like, because the young adults would give rides to the high school youth, and bring them to our young adult Bible studies. So I think that helped. And also I instituted a mentorship program for the young adults and the high school kids. We assigned like first we asked the parents if it's okay. And then we were like, who of the young adults can mentor the youth? And I think that was really good and fruitful. Yeah, I guess I was in the leadership of both young adult and youth ministry. I was able to help that. But I think one of the keys is getting the millennials to mentor the Gen Z, like, because I think millennials have something to offer, or at least during our time period, millennial second gens have something to offer to the Gen Z who are second gen. that they're not getting from that they don't. I guess that they don't get from their parents. Of course, parents are the primary disciple makers of their children. But I think as a supplement a supplement to that is, and also to encourage millennials to make disciples and also mentor the next generation. I encourage the millennials to mentor the Gen Z. Yeah.
I was just gonna say earlier, I remember taking Mackie. He was such a little kid back then. Now he's like, I remember taking him to Guitar Center. He was so happy.
Yeah. I think, just taking them out was really key. Yeah. Okay. Maybe we kind of touched on this. I don't want to spend too much time on this next topic, but could you point out anything distinctly Filipino American about our ministry? Is there are there any cultural ways of worship, fellowship, doing church, or anything that we can say that was distinctly Filipino American about it?
The food.
The food, yeah.
We didn't have finger foods. We had real food.
We don't want that fake food. We want the real food.
We got real food, man. So we got them cooking good food for us. And that's part of the reasons a lot of the guys went to Bible study too, or in the beginning at least.
I remember many instances where we even cooked our own food. It was kind of like a family. We would go to, I think Esther and Kay would go to H Mart, buy vegetables and meat, and then we would come back. And then even in my house, Esther knew our house because she's close with my mom. So she would know where to find all the utensils. She knew my kitchen better than me. So she would know where to find all the cooking material, and then they would cook it, and then we would eat it together. And then, I think.
I do remember, again, I think even that was okay, what's an activity that we could do together? We could cook.
Yeah, cook.
Not just eat, okay, we come together and cook, do something together.
Yeah.
So I think, just looking back, we did a lot of that. We did a lot of activities where we could all grow together. But we also did focus heavily on we were focusing heavily on going deep with our Bible study. We're going deep with our faith. It wasn't just we're just gonna have fellowship, we're gonna hang out. It wasn't like a social club or anything like that. I mean, we had deep discussions. I mean, we even had debates at certain points in our Bible studies.
Yeah.
So that's part of that too. I think part of the growth was as a young adult, I was searching for depth.
Yeah.
I didn't want the chubby bunnies, and I didn't want those anymore. I wanted something that was deeper. I wanted to grow. And so we definitely had we had those, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Especially during our Bible study, we had a lot of deep insight. People would share a lot, and I would learn also. And I think that also encouraged me to invite people. When I saw that the Bible study was really going into the Bible, and it was gospel centered. We can talk about that a different episode. But when there was depth to the Bible study, I was more inclined to invite people to it.
Because I think the model that we were left with our youth was let's get together, let's play games, and then they're gonna feed us pizza or some food, and then we'll have some short Bible study from a book.
Yeah.
And that might have worked when you were younger, but as young adults, we are in this crossroads of okay, there's got to be more to church than just this.
Yeah, just hanging out.
So I mean, we talked a lot about having food. Yes, we did have good food and real food, but I think part of it is also we had this intentionality of our desire to go deep, and we pursued it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, that's another, I think that's key for young adult ministry in the Filipino American church.
yeah. So we had depth in our Bible studies, and then we had depth in trying to go deep in our relationships with one another.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we can move on to so what could we have done better, and what lessons did we learn from the experience?
Yeah. So I think one of the main reasons why I left or I went seminary was I really thought that I needed training, which I did. But I think if there's I wish that I had like an older Filipino American guy mentor me, but there's nobody to be found to do
You mean
that.
like a second gen?
Yeah, like a second gen who has kind of done this ministry, or not even second gen, or even if it's 1.5, or even like first gen, but just somebody who's kind of like guiding. But again, I think, young adults, second gen, that's at least at that point in our church, in our context, in our place, you didn't really see that a lot.
Mentorship from the older generation.
Yeah. Or like a big group of young adults, Filipino Americans, at least in our context. It might be different in other places. So I wish we had that kind of mentor who knew specifically that kind of ministry, because I always felt like we were going into unknown territories, right? Like, I still remember reading a lot on like, okay, what kind of like strategies should I do to grow? I remember reading, what's that church, that mega church in California? Rick Warren's.
Saddleback?
Yeah, Saddleback. I remember reading like, okay, there's strategies and trying to implement it in ours, which obviously like some work, but you cannot import like a strategy that worked in one context in a different group. And so the principles could work, but like the specifics doesn't always work, because it's just a different place, different context. That one. And then I think the main reason that eventually the young adults dissolved after, you could tell me later if I'm wrong, because you were there for a while when I left. But I think the main reason why is the lack of leadership development
of the young adults.
Yeah, so lack of leadership development. Should have been doing leadership development from the get-go, right, when we started. So we had strategies and methodologies that relied solely on one person, one or a few people. So like when you take me out or when you take someone else out, the group is gone, because the strategy is kind of dependent on one person.
Yeah. I thank you all for listening to our podcast. We'll talk about more about these, our young adult ministry, the lessons that we learned, and peace.